Welcome to Monday Mentoring Moments. It's Women's History Month. And so this month we are highlighting our royal court. So week number one, we talked about family, and I wrote a piece recognizing my mother and the matriarch in our family. And this week we're going to talk about friends. And we have something very specific that we're going to dive into that's going to take you deeper into friends. And you all know I always come with a different angle. So we're not going to talk about friends are for a season, a lifetime. You guys already know that. We're not going to talk about friends that you need to get rid of. You already know that. We're not going to talk about just the basic things, but I've really got something challenging that we're going to talk about tonight. But before we get there, we would not be human if we did not discuss what is happening in Ukraine. There was a mother that was injured in firearms last week. They rescued her, and she and the baby died. Just heartbreaking to see what is happening. And yes, it is Women's History Month, but in light of everything that's happening in Ukraine, we're going to bless single mothers that are here in the U.S. that have children that are studying in the Ukraine, or we are going to find single mothers that have been displaced in Ukraine, and we're going to be a blessing to them. Is that all right? So look for Bo and Dr. Henderson to come back next week with more information, but that is going to be our March Women's History Month initiative. Thank you, Bo. I see Bo there. Bo leads all of our social activations here within Ivy Inc. SOARs, and to our new SOARs. Every single month we serve, because I believe the way that you soar is through service. And so every single month we serve. And so Bo is going to be coming back next week. Dr. Henderson already has a list prepared. And Bo, I have a contact of someone that I'll put you in contact with. But that is how we're going to help. So next week, make sure that you're on so that you can hear about the programs that we're going to support. Now, listen, oftentimes we are very keen to support when we know the outcome, right? When you can see, I gave money to a woman and I can see she responded online. And sometimes it can be a bit of trepidation when you're giving to something to another country and you go, well, I can't see. Well, that's the activation of your faith, right? Because sometimes you can't see when your children go to school if the teacher is treating them fair, but you pray over them, you put them in God's hand, and you trust that God is being God. So this month we're doing the very same thing. We've sent money to Africa. We've got Sophie and Juliet and so many others that are there in Cameroon, and we support there. But we are jumping in this and supporting people that are suffering and need help. And it is up in the millions of people that have been displaced. So if you hear of a program, right, I want you to send an email. Dr. Henderson, what is your email? I think her email is SOAR. Isaiah, what's Dr. Henderson's email? Thank you, Kathy Mackey. Kathy Mackey says, count me in. If you are rocking and you are going to help us. Now, you all know here we don't browbeat anybody for money. That's not the way we do it. We always share what we're doing, and whatever you want to do. If you want to do, you do. If you don't, you don't. As the leader of this community, Bo, you can count on me for $500. So I'll be sending that tonight so that we have something to immediately start with. All right. If you are in, type in the comments, just as Kathy Mackey, count me in. Thank you, Dr. Devetta Hammond, who said that they are in. Just type that in the comments so we know that we've got a group of people that we will be working with. And if you know of a program, please send an email. Yes. Now, if you've got holes in your pockets and you can't keep your money, thank you, Sharita. You can absolutely go ahead and send. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, Sharita. Thank you, Dahlia. You can go ahead and send whatever you like to the Cash App. Put it there again, Isaiah. It's on the screen. It is simply Ivy Inc. SOAR. So you can send your Cash App. It's just Ivy Inc. All right, very good. That's the Cash App. If you've got a hole in your pocket, and it will be burning by next week. And you all know we've been doing this for 2 years. None of this money goes to me. 100% of it goes to the program that we are supporting. So if you choose to give tonight, we'll let you know, as we always do, full transparency, full amount that was collected. And I am starting with $500. So that's our base, and we'll go up from there. All right. Last week, we talked about this royal court in terms of family, right? And we talked about sibling order. I'm telling you, you've got to go back and watch last week, because it's very interesting to understand how traits that are in you, it doesn't matter what age you are, right? They're just traits that come with the youngest child. And you'd be 50, 60 years old, you still carry that trait. It doesn't make you bad. A middle child, you can be 70, 80 years old and still have the middle child trait. Likewise, with an oldest child. And the reason we shared that with regards to sibling trait is because in your royal court, listen, Saturday I talked about everything you need is in you. Everything you need to rise is in you. But we have to learn to embrace the differences, right? If there's the same, the world would be boring. Everything would be brown. So there's differences, and there's differences in way people view things, the way we look at things. So you've got to go back and watch that. It will help with communication. It will help with the way that you understand people around you. But tonight's discussion on our Royal Court Part 2 discussion is on friends. Friends are a part of our Royal Court. The first thing, and I'm just going to share 2 or 3 things with you, and then we'll open it up to Q&A. The first thing that I want to share in this whole idea, this discussion on friendship, is that I want to challenge you, everyone that's listening, to start a friendship with yourself. What would that look like if you started a friendship with you, right? Here it is. Lean in. You're supposed to love your close ones like you love yourself. How do you expect to be friends with someone if you're not friends with yourself? It's difficult to love someone when you don't know how to love yourself first. That's like trying to offer someone a drink from an empty cup. If there isn't that love in you first, giving it to someone else is a near impossible task. All right? So tonight we're starting off with this whole idea of starting a friendship with yourself, right? And there are some simple things that you can do in starting a friendship with yourself. First, you can ask yourself, am I honest with me? Lean in, lean in. And this is just for the mature folks tonight. Am I honest with me? Isaiah, somebody's asking for the Cash App information. Am I honest with myself? That's the first question, all right? Because the first task is, I really can't be friends with anybody else if I'm not friends with me, right? And it sounds simple, but you'd be surprised the number of people that go through life and they've learned to put on what they think are the things that will attract friends to them, right? But when you put those on, you can only wear a garment so long before something goes wrong, right? And so the first question in establishing a friendship with yourself and how that would look is, am I honest with me? Right? Lean in. Because the truth of the matter is, sometimes we can be very aloof and remiss about things with ourselves. And the reason we're discussing this is because everything that we do here at Ivy Inc. is all about making you better, greater than you ever imagined, right? And so your ability to start a friendship with yourself has to start with, am I honest with me? Have I been lying to myself about some things? And when you're honest with yourself, you know what this is going to do? This is going to challenge you to then look at the people around you who have been believing the lie. Because you want people in your space that love you, yes, that celebrate you as you, but you want people in your space. My good friend, I have a list of great friends that are on tonight. But listen, if you're not able to have challenging conversations with you, you can't expect people to come in your life and want you better, right? You can't expect people to come in your life and say, hey, I see more for you. If you've never had a challenging conversation with you first. And so oftentimes when people look at friendship, it can be very esoteric, right? It can be, let's shop together, let's laugh together, let's play together. And if I'm down, be there to wipe my eyes. And sometimes there are seasons where things will go just like that. But as the old folks would say, just keep living, because as you continue to live, life happens and you evolve and people evolve. So in this real talk, how would I start a friendship with myself? The first step is, am I honest with me? What are the things that I'm not real honest about, right? That you can pull some fast ones on friends. And if you like something about a friend, like that's the friend, they always buy the dopest gifts, or they always, are the first ones to everything. Sometimes what we learn to do is excuse things that God really sent you to help make them better. Right? And so friendship, I've learned, is not always about the smooth feeling. Remember a couple of weeks ago, we talked about embracing the rough. Do you all remember that? And how you have to, if you pick up a stone when you're on the beach and you pick it up because it's beautiful, it's got these colors and ridges on one side, but when you turn it over, it's got sharp and it's got sand and it's got grit and seaweed and all of that. It's still a beautiful stone. So you just have to learn to embrace the rough. But what many times people come into your life and want you to do is for you to embrace the beautiful side and then excuse the other. Now, the truth of the matter is, when you're in covenant relationship and friendship, you accept it all, right? This is the sum total of Ivy, but you don't forsake the opportunity to challenge and say, but Ivy, you can be better in this area, right? Again, this is just for the mature folks. Some people just want the friends that just go roller skating on Friday and that's it. And if that's you, then this won't resonate with you. But for those of us that say, I want to be greater than I ever imagined, I want to present the best me, right? I want to present the best me to me first, and then I'm able to present it to the world. So the first is, am I honest with myself? Secondly, do I laugh by myself? Listen, this is so important because oftentimes we can be such a, first time somebody laughs at you, you're offended and you want to just fall out and throw in the towel because you've never laughed. Listen, I was thinking the other day, I admittedly have OCD. I know it, and I know every day I get older, it's getting worse and worse and worse. I get on my own nerves, me and that OCD. I'm telling you, I was thinking the other day, I was sick I was living in Houston, Texas at this time, and I had to have a blood transfusion. I was very, very anemic, and I had to have a blood transfusion. And my sister came in the hospital, and they had moved me room to room to room to room, because every room we'd go, and I'd say, I see something. And my sister was like, please just move her. By the fifth move, and my sister was like, Ivy, shut your eyes. Like, get this blood, get this transfusion. We're going to put a blanket over your eyes and we can both be out of here. But there are no other rooms to move you to. What am I saying? I have to learn to laugh at me sometimes. My mother will tell you, I wipe the counters down and I'll go to bed and wipe again. And I'm thinking, what am I wiping still? I'll get on my own nerves. But lean in. How many of you are mature enough to look at areas in your life and say, I know it's a whole lot for folk to deal with me? See, we often look at the sides of us to say, yeah, but I'm the first one, I'm never late. Or we always celebrate the pretty side of the stone, but we never look at the rough side and say, I'm a whole piece of work to deal with. I'm a whole lot to deal with. And listen, in order for me to grow, in order for me to transition and evolve, I've got to look at me. See, y'all are laughing at me. I see you both laughing, but it's true. I get on I go to bed so tired, so tired some nights because I have wiped and re-wiped and wiped and and I'm like, there's nothing else to wipe. And I just have to speak to that OCD and say, OCD, you are going to bed. You're going to lay it down. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. You can wipe some more tomorrow. But I get on my own nerves. But I'm challenging you because we're talking about friends tonight. What are the areas in yourself that you're honest enough to say, I know that's got to be a lot? None of us are wonderful all of the time. Lean in. As wonderful as everybody in your family tells you. Listen, sometimes families can be our worst enemy when it comes to truth. Family, yep, you're just wonderful. And then you get married and you and your husband going toe to toe and you're wondering why? Because sometimes family, they love us, but they want to just keep the peace. And so for the mature folks, and this whole idea of growing as a person and appreciating our royal court and appreciating the gifts and the blessings of people that God has given to us, sometimes we don't understand that we are living beneath our privileges in terms of friendships. So sometimes people have people in their lives that they know are beneath who they are. But to get the person that's on another level, it requires something of you, right? Often people celebrate, oh, how'd you become friends with Oprah? Da, 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 da. Listen, anytime things escalate in your life, it requires more of you. So you can't be yesterday and wanting today. You have to choose, where do I want to go in life and what do I want to be? So you have to ask yourself the first question. Am I honest with myself? Do I laugh by myself? Can I laugh at me sometimes? And can you say like me, I get on my own nerves. And so I know how to celebrate the gifts of people that God has sent in my life. Here's another thing to ask yourself is, do I bring joy to my own life? A lot of times, there are times when you all probably look at your phone and determine, I'm not taking that call today. Because people haven't practiced bringing joy to their own lives. And so they don't even know. As soon as yep, the sky is falling. The sun is gray. Yep. Yep. Before you know it, 2 minutes into the conversation, your whole mood is changed and you look at the phone and go, nope, I'm not going to do it. So you have to ask yourself the question, not only can I identify those people, lean in for the mature folks, where have I been that person that somebody else might be looking at the phone going, I'll catch it later. So this is just for those that can really be honest. Do I bring joy to my own life? Do I buy my own self flowers? So I'm not sitting somewhere brutal and mad because somebody's not getting my own flowers. Do I take myself and celebrate me? I was at the mall and I was telling my mom, I said, Mom, this is your best season. You got to do something for you and celebrate. You've raised your children. You've done well. And now's the season. How well do you celebrate you? Okay. A lot of times we put weights on other people. I want people to do this and do that. And the truth of the matter is some of the stuff are things you can do for yourself. Right. And it doesn't excuse people, but you don't want to come as a weight. And so do I bring joy to my own life? Here is something. People who are usually mean and hateful to others are that to themselves. People who lack accountability with others aren't accountable to themselves. And so this is what accountability looks like when you're honest with yourself and when you say, I'm going to start a friendship with me and I'm going to start being honest with myself. This is what it looks like. So you have to say, okay, let's for example, if you're a person that I don't know, is challenged in some area, right? And you've seemingly fooled your circle of friends that it's not a challenge, but you know that it is. And so you're not necessarily reaping the benefits of friendship, because you won't open up and let them see this is an area. It can be trust. Let's talk about trust, because a lot of people deal with that, right? If you know trust is your thing, right, and you don't really trust people, so you found a crew and you trust them, or you're trying to trust them, you don't really talk about trust, right? So the way that you are accountable to yourself is you have to identify areas, right, that are roadblocks, that have trust written all over them. So somebody new starts on the job and they ask you a simple question, you know, where did you go to school, right? Immediately, because somebody else somewhere else in life said something and it went down around a wrong path, that triggered a trust thing in you. Now you're thinking, okay, I can't trust them because they're going to run back to the boss and they're going to try to take my job, da, 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 da. Trust issue. So when you're honest with yourself, you sit with yourself and you identify not only the great things that we celebrate, but during the royal court month, you have to recognize, I'm in the royal family, so I can't be put out. So since I'm royal, I might as well take my time to make sure all of me represents royalty. So I want my friends to have the best friend in me. See, a lot of times people put it the other way. I'm looking for a great friend, a friend I can trust, a friend that. What kind of friend are you? Not on the smooth side of the stone. Let's talk about that other side. And on that side, how are you working to make me better? So for me, and when I laugh about OCD, it's true. I know that I have it. I know the older I get, it's getting worse. So the way that I am honest with myself is I have to see how that makes other people feel, right? Because I know it and I know it's harmless. But if I'm coming behind you and I'm cleaning, I'm basically saying, my actions could be saying that I don't trust that you cleaned up good, right? So when you know that you've got an area that's not the smooth side of the stone, the mature and the accountable thing to do in being friends with yourself is to say, how would that make me feel? Right? That's a mature thing. And people don't talk on friendship this level. They talk about, get you a friend that does this, get you a friend that goes to the mall, get you a friend that likes candy, get you a friend that blah, 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 all of those simple things. But nobody challenged, but what kind of friend am I? And it starts with what kind of friend I am to me. Now, I've got a couple of other points, and I'm going to save them for next week. But I'm going to give everybody this piece of homework, all right? Is what we're going to do. So on the friendship tip, did any of that bless y'all? I hope it did. So on the friendship tip, this is what your homework will be. I want everybody to speak to two of your friends, right? One is a friend that's known you the longest, right? The other is a friend that's relatively new. Now, here's the question you're going to ask them. You're going to ask them, how would they assess that you can be a better you? Okay? So you're not even talking about friendship. Do I always buy the candy first? You're going to ask them, how do you assess that I can be a better me for me? Not for friendship, not for husbandship, not for wifeship, for me. So you're going to ask a friend that you've been friends with for a long time, okay? And then you're going to ask a relatively new friend. Now, the reason that you're going to do this is something very interesting will uncover, right? So if there is a consistent theme, right? So the friend that's known you the longest and the friend that just met you, that friend says you work too hard. So what that might suggest is that you are being the consistent person to old friend and new friend. Now, if old friend says you need to take a vacation and new friend says something else, what you might discover is that you are showing something different to these two groups. right? So it will show you about you. Am I comfortable with old? Am I comfortable? Am I less comfortable with new? Am I most comfortable with new and not with old? It will show you something about you. Now, none of this is to beat up on yourselves. All of this is to simply say that we deserve our royal court that God has already given us. And we want to present, because we're royalty, we want to present our best to the court that God has given us. And so sometimes in presenting our best, it doesn't start with counting the flaws of others. A lot of people do that. You don't, you didn't, you did, or all of that. Maturity starts with me. Let me look at Ivy. Let me see how Ivy is doing. And let me start with saying, let me see how Ivy is a friend. Am I dependable? Am I consistent? Am I reliable? Am I moody? Am I, and the last thing that I want to say in friendship before we open it up for Q&A is, we take for granted because we're all mature that everyone knows, don't accept toxic relationships. You know what I'm saying? Life is short, death is sure. Toxic people, they shouldn't have a way in your life. But if we're honest, lean in. We've all had toxic situations. All of us had. And you know why toxicity gets into our lives? Because we don't know who we are. That's the bottom line truth. Because when you walk into your you-ness, an Ivy word, when you walk into you and you understand who you are, and it's not arrogance at all. I'm a person of peace. So new people might think, oh, you can just get over on Ivy. You know what I'm saying? But old folks who've been around a long time know, yep, she's very forgiving. Yep, she's gonna smile. But when she gets to that point, it's a point of no return, right? And so you have to know about you. But everybody that's on here, life is too short to engage with toxic people. And you have to value the gift that you are. And as long as you don't, you will excuse toxic behaviors. I've been there. I've done that. And it doesn't feel good. It doesn't look good. And people on the outside are going like, when they wake up and realize. And so sit with yourself and really do these assessments. Ask yourself your question, how would it be to be friends with me? Am I honest with myself? And if I am, then I see why my friends are able to share, tough stuff with me. If I'm not honest with myself, trust me, you cut everybody off at the knees when they try to say anything to you. It's that law. So anyhow, listen, we'll dive deeper more. I've got more, but I want to leave time for Q&A on this whole idea of friends. Did anything I shared tonight, was it a helpful blessing to anybody? Isaiah, jump on screen with me. What questions do we have, my friend?
Here you go.
All
How
right.
do, how do we deal with people who can't handle you celebrating yourself?
Ooh. Oh, give it to me again. How do
How
we?
how do we deal with people who can't handle you celebrating yourself?
Okay. So the first thing is you have to understand from what we talked about tonight, a person that cannot receive, you saying, hey, Ivy, you got to get that light right. Now, if I would just go off on Isaiah and just, you don't tell me, blah, 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 that's a reflection that I'm not honest with me, that I don't say truth things to myself. So you have to invert just the same. So the person that is challenged by you celebrating yourself probably doesn't celebrate themselves, one. But secondly, there's probably a little envy or jealousy there, right? Because why wouldn't anyone want you celebrating yourself,
Hmm.
right? So you have to look, and you have to look at the core of things. One thing that I had to learn in life, I didn't accept people in my space who were quick to make jabs in public. Because that only says what you do in private.
Hmm.
Y'all got to look at things for what they are. Now, I'll be nice to everybody, but I'm telling you, this 50-something-year-old Ivy, both eyes are wide open. And I smile at folks that I see right through. So if you have an issue, if you have an issue with somebody else celebrating themselves, it's more of an indicator that of their issue with them. So then my question to you is, why is that just a justifiable friend?
Hmm.
And I'm telling you, I have to find it for you all, but Pastor Keon said it best. He said, only when you're healed and whole do you look back and see why you justified individuals in your space that were toxic. Because when you're broken, you think toxic is okay. But when you fool around and heal, you look at like, wait, I was excusing that. Wait, that was okay? No, 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 no. So most times, if that person is a friend, then it is somebody that you should have a conversation with. And the way that we have to learn to kind of have conversations is not all this get somebody told. Like, that's so dated, that's so young, that's so immature. All this, I'm gonna get somebody told. The truth of the matter, tonight's session is about getting me right, right? And not evincing all that energy. Put all that energy into getting me right, right? So it doesn't even have to be this whole, oh, I'm gonna get them told because they don't want to celebrate me. No, maybe having a conversation and say, when is the last time you celebrated your promotion? When's the last time you celebrated that you got a car? When's the last time that you celebrate that you made it through the pandemic? Switch the conversation, make it embracing, make it palatable. Don't make everything so contentious. I'm gonna get you told. All of that is just an indicator of a person that hasn't healed. Every time there's any issue, I'm gonna fix it. I don't take all of that. What is that for?
Mhm.
What does that do? You know what I'm saying? That doesn't endear people to you at all. That makes people like, I'm not dealing with that. So learn to have, if that is a true friend and somebody that you value, and it's not a friend that you're justifying toxicity, then have the conversation, but do it in love and kindness and say, you know what? Um, I want to celebrate you because I've seen you do some incredible things, and let's do that. And while I'm celebrating you, I'm celebrating me too. You know what I'm saying? Make it a learning. And if it's truly a person that's envious, that's jealous, uh, then that relationship may have expired for its season, right? But if it's a true friend, have the conversation in love. Maybe that person doesn't know how to celebrate themselves, and so since they don't know how to celebrate themselves, it comes off as them not looking like they enjoy you celebrating you. I hope that helps.
Have another one.
Let
Similar
me.
similar question. How would you suggest finding balance with who you are around those who aren't always celebrating you without dummying it down?
Woo, you guys are coming with the good ones tonight. Give it to me one more time, Isaiah.
How would you suggest finding balance with who you are around those who aren't always celebrating you without dummying it down?
Okay. So the first thing is that, again, it's ownership. Like, you have to celebrate you, right? So, I bought a car recently. I didn't wait to post pictures and say, how many people are going to celebrate my new car. I love my car. I mean, not love, but I'm good with it. So first, in terms of you have to start with the personalization of celebrating yourself, right? And you have to know that there are some things, and I learned this the hard, folks. Listen, I learned this the hard way, folks. Everything is not for somebody else to celebrate. It just isn't. It isn't. It just isn't. And it doesn't make people bad, but here's what I learned. If somebody had a rough day and they went to the car lot and they got denied 3 times, and they got kids and they're walking and catching the bus, and here I bust in, oh yeah, I walked down there and cut that check, and before I didn't even show them my check, and they had already approved me that 10 different lots. It's not that that person can't celebrate me, but they're at a different season, right? They're at a different juncture. So I've learned the hard way that everything is not about somebody else celebrating me. You have to learn to bake your own cake, take a picture of it, take a picture of it, send it to yourself, and celebrate the cake and eat the cake and be glad and rub your own stomach behind your own cake. But oftentimes we do the converse of that. Okay, we are always into this who will, right? So we get ourselves disappointed, right? So the first thing that you have to celebrate you. The second thing that I'll say to the opening part of that question, balance with yourself. You are 100% you all of the time. So you don't bring layers of you because other people are dealing with something, right? You know what to say and what not to say. And again, the celebration is not bad, but I just know certain times it just may not be the right time. If somebody's having a tough day and things have been rough, it doesn't make them bad, but certain times you just have to know it. And that's an art of friendship as well. You know what I'm saying? That's an art of friendship, of knowing timing. So I don't think it's balancing being you. I think it's balancing knowing the art of what to say and when. And again, it goes back to the how. And then finally, I'd say you celebrate you always. You guys would be surprised to just know how many times I'm just in my own house, like, I can't even believe that. I do that multiple times a week. I celebrate me. So, I mean, it's great when somebody else says, wow. I get amazing text messages from my friends. Amazing. Amazing. One of my friends just sent me a text just before we went on live, and just a wonderful text. Like, I know it takes a lot for you to be you and for you to do what you do, and I celebrate you. Just a friend text. So learn to celebrate you, and when you do that, you teach other people how. The last thing that I'll say is everybody is wired with different capacity. That's why last week's session was so good. And it doesn't excuse people, right? Somebody does something wrong, it doesn't excuse them. And that's the thing that I had to learn. I'm over the excuse. No, we just not doing that. An apology is warranted. You know what I'm saying? And if that can't be given, then that reframes, that reshapes how things look, right? So again, it goes back to one, you celebrating you. You knowing what to say, when to say. You never have to dumbing down you. Never, never, never. But you do have to understand and exercise wisdom and know that people are at different layers, that people are at different levels. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't always able to go to the store and buy what I wanted, So if I think about times in my life, that were difficult, and I couldn't rub two pennies together to make a nickel. I mean, things were just challenging. And so if I was always hanging out with friends, let's just go shopping and, shopping and shopping, and I don't have anything, that was going to make me feel some kind of way. So it's all about the wisdom of knowing what to say and when. And again, when you are using wisdom with you, it's not difficult to exude wisdom in other situations. So long way around, but I hope something said helps. Any other questions, Isaiah?
Definitely. This is an interesting question.
All
Came
right.
from the text platform. How do you deal with friends that don't value you because you don't have a lot of social media collateral? They use you privately but never acknowledge you publicly.
Okay, give it to me again.
Okay.
How do you,
How do
social
you,
media collateral?
yes, how do you deal with friends that don't value you because you don't have a lot of social media collateral? I'm still assuming social media followers. They
Okay, let's
use
pause with that. Let me just deal with that, and then we'll do with part two.
okay.
First off, social media is such a big joke. I mean, it's a form of communication, but it's not life, and I see people that just day in and day out, like, oh my goodness, it's the thing. It's no different than Xbox. Remember back in the day, we were all, will we get an Xbox for Christmas? And we played Atari and Nintendo and all of that stuff. Nobody talks about Atari and Nintendo now. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like life has seasons of things that are big. Remember the Rubik's Cube, big thing. Oh my goodness, if you got a Rubik's Cube. I think that life is filled with seasons. So first off, social media collateral is it doesn't define you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've spoken on platforms, and I don't have a lot of followers. You know what I'm saying? And I've spoken on platforms where there were millions. I'm friends with people, like real friends with people that have millions of followers. They don't care about how many followers I got. So it's really about um, people knowing who you are. And so it's not so much about this. Don't be up in a bunch about social media. Okay, so that's part one. Continue, Isaiah.
So they use you privately but never acknowledge you publicly.
Okay, so use you. I'm not certain what that means, but first off, I just think, again, it goes back to the point that I made earlier. When you settle into you, right, and who you are, you have to ask the question of, why am I allowing it? Right? Like, people can do no more than you allow. So why are you allowing people to use you privately or publicly, or privately, and not celebrating publicly? So the first question is, again, when we're not fully healed, or when we're not fully whole, we will excuse things because of our own brokenness. So I challenge that person to identify what's broken in them that allows yourself to be used, first off, and then from a used situation to want celebration. So that's like from a woman saying, I'm okay um with a guy that doesn't treat me right, and he leaves money on the nightstand, but I want him to celebrate me in public. You shouldn't be a woman that's okay with a $20. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you have to go to, why am I allowing any person to use me? Period. Like, the conversation shouldn't be, and they don't celebrate. If they use you, it shouldn't be it shouldn't be. And if it's a valued friendship, right, then there should be a conversation, right? And it all starts with where I started. Many times we are no further than us having honesty with ourselves, right? So it could be a person that's not real honest with themselves. And so you're expecting something of them that they haven't really held themselves to. So first off, don't be used by anybody. You are a soror, right? You are not used by anybody. And anybody that you are used by, it's not anything that you want public celebration over. And you have to choose and determine, if that is a meaningful relationship and that person has something indeed to offer your life, then you have to determine first, what in me was broken to allow that, right? And then secondly, if it's a valued relationship, how does the healed me have a conversation to help heal that person? I hope that makes sense.
Yes, ma'am. This, I believe, is the last question I've seen.
Last question. Y'all giving the good ones tonight, Lord Jesus.
What are some very practical things you can do to love and celebrate yourself? Sometimes
Oh,
people weren't raised in a household surrounded by people who truly love themselves, so they have no point of reference.
this is a great question. Give it to me again, Isaiah.
What are some very practical things you can do to love and celebrate yourself?
Oh,
Sometimes,
this is,
yes,
I
ma'am.
got it.
Okay.
Okay, so first off, some very practical things, simple and practical things that you can do is tell you that you love you, right? If you were hanging around last year, I had everybody write a love letter, a thank you letter to themselves. like thanking yourself, like you made it through some tough stuff. You made it through some difficult times. Like you are amazing. And I thank you for standing. I thank you for being strong. I thank you for getting. So that was um, an incredible task, right? But one of the things that you can start with, even before writing a thank you or love letter to yourself, is just telling you, I love you. I love, so that one, you don't want to go through life and nobody's told you love you. I've told me and mean it. And then follow love that, because love is a verb, follow it up with actions, right? So if you love you, then it goes back to what we first started talking about tonight. How are you in relationship with you, right? How do you treat you? Do you give you enough rest? Do you get enough sleep? Do you wake up happy? What helps you have a great day when you get stressed? How are you in relationship with you? Are you honest with yourself? Is the day stressful because you stayed up late and you got up late? Are you honest with yourself? Or do you just call your friends and say, I'm so mad at my employees, they get on my nerves? Honesty starts with you. So celebration begins with simple things. I love myself. You treat yourself. Um, Another simple way is taking you away, right? If you can't go to a getaway vacation out of the country somewhere, then go to a nice hotel. Do research, find the nicest hotel, and you may not be able to afford a week stay, but give yourself a 1 or 2 night staycation getaway. That's how you love you, right? Order yourself the best dinner. um, Read new things is a way it expands your brain, right? And when your brain expands, you look at things differently, right? Of course, fresh flowers are just a wonderful thing. They smell good and they look good and they brighten your home, and it's just a way to show you that you love you. Those are simple things. And then to the latter part of your questions, everybody's been raised in some, in some type of family environment, and we're not judgmental of the ways in which we were raised. But sometimes when you model something new, what what you what you're able to do is to show people who are watching how they can love themselves also, right? So you never know who's watching, and you never know how people will adopt behaviors that are good for them as well. So start with telling yourself that you love you, start treating you right, get enough sleep, do simple things. Turn your phone off so that you get ample amount of sleep at night. Wake up and give yourself time in the morning, right? I know for myself, when I have ample time, lead time, you start your day better and things are better. But when you're running behind the clock and late, it just sets a tone to the day. So love you and understand you and what you need and give that to you is the way that you love yourself. So that, when somebody comes around and they send you 10 dozen of roses, you don't know that there's another type of flower out there that may be your ideal flower that you prefer. So love yourself enough, do a little research, understand unique things, visit new places, go to the museum, discover things, leave yourself open to discovery, do new things, right? I love you all. Thank you all so much for stopping through. For all of our brand new source, thank you so much. On Tuesday, you want to be a part of the community, because Tuesdays we do something called Talk About It Tuesday, where we talk about what resonated most with you in this discussion on friends. I hope something was said to allow us to really embrace, not only embrace the gifts of friends that God has given us, but to also embrace the idea of being the best version of ourselves, so that we bring even a greater gift to the great gift of friendship, because we are a part of the royal court. Listen, next week we're going higher. You want to be a part. I love you guys so much. Make sure that you're here same time, same place next week for another installment of Monday Mentoring Moments. It's way more than a moment, but it's a whole movement, and I'm glad that you're here. Have an amazing week. I'll see you tomorrow over in the Facebook group, and I'll talk to you soon. God bless. Love you guys.